Hi everyone, it's Judy. Welcome back to Rose Lane. Okay, today is, I think I say that every time. I take a deep breath and I go, okay. I don't know why that is, just do. Today is Sit a Spell Sunday. Time for us to sit and have a little chat, just sort of while I'm working on stuff to keep my hands busy. It's not a tutorial, not, kind of, just going along and working on the sewing journal. And today I've got pieces cut here so I can kind of get started on the cover for the journal, and I'm looking for a soft cover. But in looking at all of these beautiful flowers and thinking now, today is the 12th, I think. Don't have my calendar up. It ought to be the 12th of March. Couple more weeks, week and a half, and then it's the first day of spring. And I think y'all know that spring is my favorite time of year. And the quote I'm going to use today is, I've seen it used in a bunch of different ways, and they changed the subject of it, but it was done, and I think the name of the man who actually wrote it was John Burroughs. I believe he lived in the early part of the 20th century. It is, "Into the forest I go, to lose my mind and find my soul." And I just love that. And I've seen people use it with "into the garden I go, to lose my mind and find my soul." Maybe you can say "into my house I go." I have no idea. But the original quote was, is this the right? Just want to make sure I measured that. It doesn't seem to be right. I think I may have cut this too short. The original quote was, "Into the forest I go." Yeah, I did not. I cut it from the wrong end. Okay, not a problem. I always make a mistake, don't I? "Into the forest I go, to lose my mind." Ow, I just gave myself a paper cut. Ouch, that hurt. "To lose my mind and find my soul." So, I always loved that since, I only probably found the quote about, I don't know, maybe 2 years ago. Which is surprising for me, but what I'm doing here is I'm just going to tell you a little bit as I go along. I'm using cardstock because I want a soft cover for the sewing journal, because I thought it should be soft. And so I'm putting 2 pieces of cardstock together, 1.5 inch spine, and then I knead it from the spine out 8.5 inches. So I think actually, yeah. I think I'm going to go just 8 and, I didn't cut the other one, 8 and 1/8. I just want to make sure I have enough room here. So, and then I'm going to overlap where the spine is. So anyway, so that being said, I love going into the forest. I love trees. I love tree lore. I love it. I have to say I love it. So, this is not what I need. I'm way ahead of myself, guys. I'm not thinking. Let's see. I only needed 8.5, don't I? I'm sorry. I'm going to overlap this, give myself a 1.5 inch spine. From here to here, I only need half of that. So I need half of 11.5. I need this. I've got the wrong measurement. Good thing I thought of it now. It would have been way too big. All right, so it's going to be about 11 is 5.5. So let's go to 5. Let's go to 5 3/4. So I have a little playroom. Okay, 5 3/4. That's what I'm going to do. So anyhow, so I'm going to start with one story. Happened, I guess well, 42 years ago, I guess, must have been. Um, I had gone to a little one-day retreat. It was my first experience with anything like that. Now, I think I may have mentioned somewhere along the way that one of my mother's sisters was a nun. And for a brief while, when I was a little girl, we used to travel out to see her. I'd go in my aunt's car and we'd travel out to see her. And I thought, I came from a city just outside of New York City, even though it was in New Jersey. I came from, yeah, good, as long as I have the same measurements. I came from a city outside of New York City on the New Jersey side. And so when I would go visit, we were very young. My aunt had a daughter as well, and she was about just a little under 2 years younger than I was. Oh, got my new blades too. So I just erased the line I needed, didn't I? I'm such a ditz. So we would pile into the car, my siblings and myself, and usually just my cousin, my female cousin, and my sister and my two brothers, my mother and my aunt, and we would pile into the car and we would take our trip, probably about half an hour, 40 minutes further into New Jersey from where I lived, and may as well have been another planet for me, being a little girl, because there was tons of trees there. And the reason why I don't mention a whole lot of stuff is because I don't like to give a whole lot of information, because you never know these days with people. So I kind of generalize as far as some places, so I don't give my whole history and all kinds of information about me, because you just don't know what people will do. But in any case, oh my, I was just getting my small scoreboard out. Look at that. How to score paper, how to create a card, how to create an envelope. I have an envelope thing. This looks confusing. But I did not know that was back there. I've had this, I don't know how long I've had this, a few months. Didn't even know that was there. Okay, well, we'll have to play with that someday. But in any case, we're going to moving along here. I'm just needing a space to do this because I've already got it marked. It's not quite long enough, but it'll suffice. So we would take our rides out to this small town, and it was, I wouldn't call it a mountain town. I know better now. It's definitely not a mountain town, but there was a smallish hill type mountain there. The only one in the whole town, but it made the town sort of, go up like this. And so we would go out and we would visit my aunt at the convent there. And the trees and the birds and the squirrels, and if you were lucky, you'd see deer, and people had horses there and they'd ride them along the road. And it was like, oh my gosh, this was like a fairyland for me, So anyhow, I just loved it there. And I remember some years later, I was driving with my sister in central New Jersey. We had gone to visit her family from her husband at the time. We had gone to see one of his brother. And we were driving home, and I'm looking at all the farm fields and, the trees and things, and and I was like, I could live in a place like this. And she just kind of chuckled. Now, I was probably maybe 16 at that time. And she just sort of chuckled, and she said, oh, you say that now. And she gave me the, you know, the streets roll up at 9 o'clock kind of thing. And I'm like, yeah, so I'm good with that. She's like, oh, you say that now, you don't know. Oh no, I knew. And I'm still that way. And yeah, so in any case, we ended up, sorry, I'm making noise and digging through my little tool bin here to find my thing. So as a little girl, we'd go out there, and to me, it was the country. Now, it was just really a small town, a little bit removed from New York, where, you know, life could be more normal, in my opinion. And no offense to people, if anybody watches and they live in big cities or they live in New York City, I am just not a city girl. Some people are and some people aren't, and I'm just not. I was born in a city, born outside a really big city. I am a country girl, at very least a suburban girl. But I love the country. I love open space. I love trees and plants. I want to hear the birds all the time and see animals in my yard and deer and, you know, turkeys and whatever. I like that. That is my kind of thing. So anyway, should do it this way, so I'm sure I'm lining it up properly with the score lines, because they don't always come out straight. So that was when I was a little girl. We'd go out there and visit. And I jumped ahead to the little story about my sister for when I was 16, but we did. We ended up moving out there when I was about 8. We moved to that small town because my mother, who was a fabulous cook, got a job. There was a college nearby the, does not want to lay flat for me. I'll trim it if I have to. There was a college nearby the convent where my aunt was, and she had been Mother Superior when we were younger. And we moved out there. My mother got a job at the college that my aunt, her sister, was affiliated with. So working in the cafeteria, she was their cook in their cafeteria. So when she told us, now mind you, I was 8.5 when we moved, so maybe just a little past 8 years old when she told us that we were going to be moving there. And I had this vision in my head, truly, this is how I thought. All my clothes were going to be gingham dresses. I was not going to have to wear shoes anymore. Apparently it was going to be springish, summerish, all year round in my little mind. And I'm going to put some glue on this for a couple reasons. One, to help keep it from, if the tape does dry out, that it won't come apart. And 2, because it does give me a minute to play with it. So I was going to have all these gingham dresses. I'd have a blue one and a green one and a pink one and a red one and yellow one. And I was going to braid my hair and have bows in my braids and, you know, this crazy, crazy idea. Oh, and I wouldn't need a book bag because I was going to have rope tied around my books, and I'd fling them over my shoulder, and I'd be barefoot, and that's how I would walk to our small schoolhouse. And like I said, it was never going to snow because it couldn't, because I didn't have any shoes. I was going to have to ever wear shoes again. And, you know, just all of this stuff. I don't know where I got that idea from, but it was so magical of a place to me as a small child that is how I felt life was going to be like when I got there. Of course it wasn't. It was a small suburban town. I had to wear shoes, and I didn't wear gingham, and I never braided my hair, and our school was a regular school, and, you know, we had buses and all that kind of stuff, just like any other town. But in my mind, that's how it was going to be, because in my heart, that is who I am, I guess. And long past the stage of braiding my hair for whatever little of it is left. But, oh, let me get rid of this. But, okay. So I cut this earlier, and I know it's crooked because it's the nature of this fabric. So I overcut to make sure that I would have enough to play with. So anyhow, so all that to say that I love the spring because it was going to be perpetually spring in my mind, moving to this small town. I love the spring. I think we'll be okay with the fabric and just lining this because I really don't want it stiff. I'm going to try to keep it not stiff if I can help it. This should be interesting because I have to glue it down. It should be very fun. All right, I think I'm going to start here. So anyhow, I'm an animal lover. I'm a nature lover. Trees, flowers, spring. If it could be spring every day for the rest of my life, I would be a very happy little girl. And so with spring right around the corner, I thought I would share my thoughts on spring, my feelings towards it, my feelings towards nature, and, you know, stories and things that I can remember mostly from my youth, I'm afraid, but nonetheless, you know, just stuff about spring. It's coming, and I am extremely excited about that. So I started this segment by saying I had gone to this retreat. Now, I'm living in this small town still. I lived there until I moved away to become a minister. Well, actually, I moved away shortly before that. A couple or 3 years before that, I did move out of that town. I went to a more rural area, which was just fine by me. And so I went to this retreat. Now, all this was at the convent where my aunt, who was a nun, where she was, there was a nun who did retreats for the nuns. And we just took a Saturday, one day, and they invited me to come. And I listened to her stories and her things, and we were talking about, you know, being able to, you know, find some time alone with God and getting close to God. And I'm going to try something here, guys, if I can dig it out. Here we go. Try to keep my fingers to a minimum on this glue if I can. I'll wipe it off in a little bit, but I want to try to smear it with something else other than my fingers. So we had this beautiful retreat, and at one point she charged us with going out on the convent grounds, okay, which I was familiar with because I used to visit there all the time as a little girl when we would come out to visit my aunt. And whoops, that's not gonna help me. My goodness. So whoops. All right, I want to give myself enough because I can always trim. Plenty of room. Okay, so I'm like rattling all kinds. Something's rattling. I'm sorry if I'm shaking the table. So anyway, what she charged us with doing is going out into the woods, onto the grounds, they were woods. And I was raised Catholic, so obviously. And on their property there were a lot of statues. There were the Stations of the Cross, big, huge things, not small little things. Some were small. There was a huge cross built up on a rock as if it was the rock, you know, the Gethsemane. There was a cave where on one side at the bottom where Jesus was as if he was laid in the tomb. And then on the other side and up high, you had to go up the steps, was a, try to clean some of this off, was a rendition of Bernadette and Mary with her vision of Mary in the grotto. That was up there. And you could go like right up to them and touch the statues, and they all had these glass eyes because they were done decades and decades ago. Now, they were there when I was a little girl, and I don't know how long they had been there before that, but I'm going to say, quite a while. And I believe, I hope they're still there. I don't know. Should try to check that out next time I go back. And so anyway, it was very nice. So I went out into the woods. Everybody kind of went their own way. Some went to small rooms. Some went, into their parlors because they were nuns. Some of us, myself included, went out into the woods. And I honestly didn't run into anybody else while I was out there. So I went out and I sat and I'm praying and I'm talking to God, and I suddenly remembered something. I'm going back and forth, probably going to make your mind mentally dizzy here. I remembered something from when I was a little girl. I was probably about 9 or 10, probably about 10 at that time. And I remembered I was in one of my neighbor's yards. I was friends with these neighbor kids, and their mother had called them in to have lunch, and I wasn't going back to my house for lunch. If we wanted something, I could go back in and, get it if I wanted. My mom would make it for me if I wanted to, but I wasn't hungry. And I just wanted to stay outside. It was a beautiful summer day. And we lived on a river, and we were kind of built up from the river. So we had walls or, whatever that you can sit on, and you could look at the river. And of course, there were all trees lining the river bank and stuff like that. And I remember sitting there, and I was looking at how beautiful everything was, and, the sounds of the birds and the hum of the insects, and, the wind through the trees, the breeze through the trees, and the rustling sound that it made, and the sound of the water in the river just sort of lapping against the sides, just the tiniest little bit. If you were really quiet, you could hear, all of these things. And I remember asking God, are you really here? And when I said that, I kind of said it out loud, but under my breath. When I said that, I looked up at the trees. Now, I'm sure anybody who has ever bothered to look at a tree has noticed this same thing, that every now and then when a breeze blows, there's a little clump of leaves that do not move in the same rhythm as the rest of the leaves that are blowing in the breeze. Okay, they all have a certain sway like this, but every now and then you get a clump that just sort of shimmers and shakes a different way. Probably everybody has seen that. If you haven't seen that, I would suggest that you look for it. But for a little 10-year-old girl, when I said that out loud to God, are you really here? And I looked up at the trees, and there was a small rustle in the the leaves were rustling a little bit in the breeze, and all of a sudden there was one spot that just went a different way. It just shook a different way than all the rest of them. And I always save that in my heart as a sign from God that was his answer to me. That when I asked him, are you really here? That was how he answered me. Okay. So here I am now. I'm 22. This is 12 years later. I'm at this retreat, and I'm sitting in this beautiful, I want to say clearing. There was an empty space at the base of all these trees, but the trees completely covered the clearing as far as the leaves were concerned. So it was like you were in your own little room, sort of. And I'm sitting there and I'm talking to God, and I'm asking him, what does he want out of me today from this retreat? What should I be doing? What should I be doing? What should I be talking about? Because I wasn't really sure I was doing this right. And I looked up to the trees because I was looking for his presence, and nothing happened. The breeze stopped blowing. It had gotten very, very still. I didn't see even one leaf moving. And for a little split second, I thought, oh my gosh, you know, all those thoughts run through your head in just like a matter of a second or two. And I thought, he's not here. That whole thing from the time I was 10 years old, none of that was real. You know, all of this is going through my head in this split second. And then all of a sudden came a breeze. The trees started to sway. And then in about 15 or 20 different places, it was amazing, I saw clumps of leaves just start to shimmer all over the place. So I was like, you know, that was a sign again to me that not only was he there, but he was kind of saying to me, I'm going to try. Sorry, I don't mean to be making so much noise. I'm trying to find my other bees. Yes. Get these scissors out. They make so much noise. I felt he was saying to me, not only have I been here from the time you were 10 till now, I've always been here, and you ought to know that. You know I'm always here. I'm always going to be here. Whether you see the leaves shimmer or not, because I may not be always someplace. I don't know what I did with the fabric now. Oh well. Put it in that bin. I'll move it later. You know, I'm always going to be here no matter what. And it gave me such a sense of peace, you know. And even now, at 64 years old, I look for those rustling leaves. Oh, I know what I started to say, that he was kind of speaking to my soul, saying, there's going to be times when you're in places where there are no leaves to rustle. You know, you're not going to have, you know, the ability to look up at the trees and see if I'm rustling the leaves for you, to just let you know I'm here. You have to always know that I'm here, because sometimes this way will not exist to tell you. You know, if I'm in a house or, you know, in the dark for some reason, or, you know, whatever that might be, you know, it's just sometimes I won't have the leaves to rustle for me. So he had to kind of prove it to me when I questioned, because the leaves weren't rustling. And then all of a sudden he rustled like hundreds of them in all of these trees all the way around me. And just to remind me, never be afraid that he's not there. He is. So he speaks to me, as he probably does for many, through the things of nature. And I don't find myself outside much in the wintertime. I'm not, well, you all know I'm not a sports person. And so that pretty much eliminates skiing or ice skating or whatever else the winter might bring. You know, I'm out and about in the spring and in the summer when it's not too hot, you know, earlier in the day or later in the evening. Otherwise, if I'm out in the daytime, I try to find as much shade as I possibly can. But it's a very special time of year for me. I can remember when we lived in Massachusetts some years back, about 10, 12 years ago, maybe more, we had a particularly bad winter. And I always knew that I was not a winter person. And honestly, I am trying to appreciate it. I really, really am. I'm moving all my little labels. Made these sewing labels, and I'm flipping this thing around and I'm moving them all over. So I'm trying to appreciate it for what it is. You know, I know how important sleep is to me, and the trees and the plants have to sleep because they spend so much energy in the spring and the summer growing that, you know, they get tired. This is me. I'm trying to convince myself. My husband keeps telling me, you can't put feelings on inanimate objects. I'm like, yes, I can. Yes, I can. And I will. And so anyway, I'm going to do this the old way, not folding over, but I'm going to snip the corners, but I want that to set a little bit. I'll use these other scissors for this. You know, I try to appreciate winter for what it is, that it's a time of sleep, a time of dormancy, a time, you know, for what needs to happen in spring is prepared for through the winter. It's just so miserably gloomy to me. And it's just, you know, I find it kind of frustrating. So we had a really bad winter. I mean, we had feet and feet and feet of snow. And when the snow was finally melting and the robins started to come back, and I saw some things starting to sprout through the ground, I suddenly realized that I had been depressed through that winter. I didn't realize I had been, but I realized that I had been depressed through that winter because I started crying, like uncontrollably crying, that it finally came. The snow was finally going to be gone, and it finally came. It was finally going to be spring, and that was a rough winter for me. I don't think I've ever had a snowier winter than that one. And whoops, those things out of there. Until I get this stuff glued down, it just wants to unweave. Get over there. Okay. So I realized then just how depressed I had been through the winter time. But I keep trying to, you know, remind myself that things are happening underground. Things are happening inside the trees, even though it doesn't look like it on the outside. But the sap is running inside the trees to feed the buds to open. And you can see that mostly where I am, most places in the Northeast where I've been, you can see that by the end of February. You can start seeing the buds thickening and that red haze that comes across the trees in March, or the end of February and the beginning of March. Things are growing underground. They just haven't broken through yet, you know, but they're already growing. They're already down there. They're growing, you know, and I try to remind myself of all of these things. So anyway, and I'm not worried about this because I'm going to be putting stuff over the corners, something different, not the metal corners, but something else I'm going to put around the corners because I want it to stay relatively pliable and soft. I still just have to work it out. I've got a picture in my head, but you know, not there yet. So anyway, so my springs, my flowers, I remember doing daylilies, growing daylilies. I grew roses. I didn't do a whole lot of gardening when I was younger. There just wasn't a lot of money for things. I got my daylilies from my aunt who was a nun because they had daylilies up at the convent. Beautiful golden yellow daylilies. And of course, you know, if you garden, that daylilies will spread and they'll multiply. And every now and then, for the sake of the plant, oftentimes you have to kind of dig them up and separate them a little bit, thin them out some. So I helped her do that one year, and she gave me a lot of the bulbs, and I planted them in my yard at home. And so that was a wonderful gift to me from my aunt to do something like that for me. So that's going to be nice. I know I'm going to make it a little stiffer with the stuff on the front, but I'm going to do my best. I'm not going to worry about that. Actually, I'm going to glue this down just to keep it from unraveling, but it will get covered. I'm just going to kind of glue it to keep it from coming undone, if you know what I mean. Okay. I'm not worried if it sticks. I'm just worried if it holds the threads together. That's all I'm worried about. So anyway, so I'm here, we'll come forward, I guess, with spring and what it does for me. It slows me down in my mind. It gives me a chance to breathe physically, really, because I mean, you breathe all the time, but to be able to truly take those deep breaths, to slow down and to hear the things that are out and around you, to see the things that are out and around you. Is my tea? Got my tea? With my condition, as far as my eyesight is concerned now, is this the one I glued? Yeah, I think so. Yep. I am more conscious than ever in trying to be aware of what I see and even what I hear. I said, like, I'm not worried that it stays glued down. I'm worried that it just holds the threads from unraveling. Says, I love this fabric, but yeah, that's what. Honestly, you got to be quick or it'll let go. So I love to sit and listen. I love to sit and look. And even now, I try my best to pay attention to what I see, like really pay attention. And I've talked about this before in direct relation to my eyesight. But and even though that is part of the message now, it's more of the message to tell you to just not pass over everything, because it's always been there and it always will be there. Pay attention. I've been looking at my neighbor's house from my upstairs window and watching her house over there in the different shades of light as the sun moves. I'll be in that room. I'll admit it, it's the bathroom. I'll be in that room often, and I'll pay attention. I'll open the window and I'll look to see where the sun is and what the shadows are doing on her house, on the grass, on the plants. You know, how it just how it looks to me. The shadows that are created within the crevices and creases of the brick on her house. Who looks at that stuff? But you know what? When somewhere inside of you, you have the realization, let's say, that there's a possibility that someday you won't see any of this. It gives you a new sense of being aware and being alive. I'll do the other one while I'm here too. So I pay a lot of attention anymore to everything. I want to feel the warmth of the sun. I want to hear the sound of the birds. I want to see the flowers and watch them grow. And I've said this before, I don't know if it's been on one of my videos or just in talking to somebody else. But I've said this before in that, how's my mark? I don't know. I don't know. Had a mark. All right. Oh, I forgot what I was going to say. Hate when I do that. Oh, there it is. Well, if I think of it, I'll come back to it. Lost it again. It's amazing. Okay, here we are. Make that good and heavy so I can see it this time. So I want to be, oh, I know what I think I was going to say. I think what I was going to say was not just being alive, but to actually live, to experience the moments of your life, to create memories, because like I said, in my reality, and though I don't want to say that this is necessarily so, but in my reality, there could be a very good possibility that I could lose the sight in my other eye. Because look at how easily it happened in this one. And I want to burn as many memories into my mind as I can. For that reason, number one, praying that that's never the case, that I'll never need those memories for that reason. Because I noticed when you are not with someone for a long time, when you're away from them, when you're away from a place for a while, or you haven't done something for a while, when you go back to it, suddenly memories start coming back when you see or hear it again. Well, if I couldn't see it again, I don't want to forget it in my mind. So I want to do that specifically for me, for my situation. But I want to do it because I want to feel it. I want to know it. I want to experience it. I want to ingest it. You know, I want to drink it in, breathe it in, swallow it, and have it become part of me. Everything that I can see, everything that I can hear, I want to just absorb and be a part of me. So I could be a part of it in that sense. So when spring comes around, and I am chomping at the bit, guys, I'm telling you, we've been blessed. We've been blessed. We've had some cold. We've had a little bit of snow. It hasn't been bad. There's been some ice or whatever. But trees are still yet bare, except I can see the green starting in the willow trees. Let me take a drink here. Hang on one second. Thank you. And I see some flowers. You know, they're at very least, they're green stems coming up. But I've seen daffodils already open and crocus already open. Of course, it's like a drive-by. You know, I have to do that kind of watch it go by me kind of thing. But yeah, that'll be fine. So I'm excited about it. I want the trees blooming. I want to be able to sit out on our screen porch again. Right now, it's just become sort of a catch-all. Through the winter, our snow blowers out there and just some tools and some stuff because my husband's been working on things. And but that's going to be coming out next couple of weeks. When it warms up enough, we're back to sitting out there and having our evening meals out there. And you know, when we are here in the evening, and you know, that kind of a thing. I'm looking forward to that, I'll tell you. So it is my hope this year to experience spring in a different way, not just as a mere observer of it, but as part of it, to almost meld with it on some level and have it become my food, as it were, my mental food in a way, perhaps in a way my spiritual food. I know God is my creator. I know He is the creator of what I see in this world, the good that I see in this world, and the beauty that there is. Excuse me, it's like I swallowed a piece of dust or something. And I'm kind of wanting to treat the spring as if this is my manna from heaven. For those of you who are Christian and understand that reference, it is food for my soul given to me by God. It is there for me to just soak up like a sponge and, you know, become part of me. And that is my true goal this spring, is to trying to even up my ends here. This is why this glue is so wonderful. That's what I'm trying to do. So I'm trying to get my mind around that. I want to be able to journal about it, write about it, you know, from my own kind of poetry, but to start really living it and being a part of it and not just observing. I could look at it in a picture and observe it, you know. I don't want to do that alone. It's nice, but I don't want to do that alone. I want to be part of the whole process of spring. I want to experience it. I want to grow with it, and just truly be part of it. So that is my, oh yeah, that's good. I know that'll dry harder because all this glue is still damp, but that's, I wanted a soft cover for that. So I'm happy with that. So I know there is a friend of mine in this community, Jessica, who we see often during the fall and winter times, many times doing some journaling things. But she tells me in the spring and summer she's missing because she has the most magnificent garden, and she puts up beautiful pictures of her flowers and her yard and her garden, and she goes to flower shows and garden shows, and I think she partakes in some of those things, and she is just living spring and summer. She is experiencing it. Her hands are in the dirt. She's causing things and helping things to grow and be beautiful in this world. And she shares that with all of us, at very least through pictures. And I'm grateful for that because it reminds me that it's there. It reminds me that the beauty is out there. It reminds me that I need to pay attention to it. And make sure I'm about even with the other side. Yeah, that looks pretty good. I'm happy with that one. Only if it was right side up. So how about we try that? Again, happy that I use this glue. So anyhow, so that is my hope. Now, I can't garden, really. I don't have a lot of time to do that. Of course, you see how hard it is for me to get time to do this. And with a lot of my physical ailments, my back issues and things that I have, the bending and getting down on the ground and things like that, a little more difficult. Now, we are planning on putting in a little bit of stuff here because the front of our house here is very, very plain. and it's bothering my husband. So I think we will be going out and probably getting some bushes and some perennials and maybe some flowering shrubs or something with that would require somewhat minimal care, but that will be very that'll be a happy thing for me. But even to just get out and walk and meditate again on these things, and just soak them in, breathe them in, drink them in, maybe even eat them if I had like a vegetable garden, and it would just be a wonderful thing for me. And I'm really, really, really looking forward to that. So let me check my time here. Oh, that's pretty good. Actually, I wanted to stop a few minutes ago, but anyway, this is the beginning of my cover for the sewing journal. And what I want to show you guys real quick, I did this. This is going to go on the front cover, and I'm not sure with what else, but I shrunk down the writing pages, which is like this, okay? And I have a top and a bottom, and I'm going to kind of put them together. I put the two together and made a journal card, which is going to go in here. This is going to be the front cover, and then there's going to be some other stuff and some lace on here. But what I wanted to tell you was I want to sew, I'm going to sew around the outer edge of the cover here, and I have to wait till the glue dries for that. And I came up with a very clever idea, and I'm sure somebody else has done this, but if this was a piece of paper, and I'm going to take my tags and I'm going to back them. So I'm going to put them down on my paper like so, okay? Glue them down, let the glue dry, and then before I cut them apart, I'm going to stitch them. Stitch them, and then I'm going to cut them apart. I think that's a whole lot easier. Haven't tried it yet, but I'll show you probably in one of our videos through the week, because I'm going to be working on this through the week. I'm trying to get the journals done a little more quickly, so that I can put more things up into my shop. I finished a journal and somebody was interested, and she asked me to reserve it for her, and I did, and she bought it, but it doesn't give anybody else a chance. So I'm trying to get things as quickly as possible into the shop so that people have the opportunity to purchase them. So in any case, so that's going to be my next thing, but this is going to be part of what is on my front cover. So that'll be coming soon. You'll see that soon. But in the meantime, guys, let me encourage you to do the same thing, to try, and I'm going to make this look pretty. Pull my flowers down here and make it look pretty. Does that look pretty? Maybe not. But try to experience the spring. I don't know if it's your favorite season or not. I don't know why it wouldn't be somebody's favorite season, in my opinion. But try your best to experience the spring. Any season, the spring, the summer, the fall, the winter. Live, as I'm trying to learn how to, live those rhythms of life. Live with life and not against it. And begin to make a difference in your life by truly soaking it all in and having it become a part of you. Your life experiences, your family, your hobbies, even your work, if that's possible. I know many of us work because we have to pay bills, and it may not be the job of our dreams, but things have to get paid. Your friends, the birds, the flowers, the trees, the wind, the stars, the moon, the sun, the beach, the waves, the sand, the shadows, and the light. Soak them in. Let them become a part of you and enrich your life in ways you probably never knew existed. So that's going to be it for tonight. I will see you guys, I think, on Tuesday. We're going to continue working on our little bee flippy flappy folio journal thing. I think that's what I'm calling it. We're going to continue to work on that one. And so that's it for now. So in the meantime, guys, be safe, be happy, and be blessed. And I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye for now.